Okay, so for the next part of this series, we're going to re-review what we did last week, as I mentioned, and we're going to get into the next section. So first things first, this is where the videos left off last week. This is about the stage we were at. So what we currently have here is a seamless background pattern that no matter how big or wide you open this or how small you make it, the background will fill it. And we have a banner with a photo in it. There's no live text here, it's just an image. So that is where we were, and this is where I'm hoping we're going to get today. So here's my sample of the code. So the next step is to add some more boxes. So what we see here is we have a container. So we have our first box. I made it pink so you can see it. And then I've added some text as well as an image here. And I've actually got that image to kind of float off the border. The text is not running into the image. I'm going to actually, probably by the end, as sort of like a little bonus thing, I'll show you how to format this text to like make it look a little better so it's not just all crammed up here. We'll open it up, maybe even look into changing the typeface. But this is where we're going to try and get by the end of class. So it's not too hard, but we're going to walk through it. So before I do that, if you're interested in trying to find a better seamless pattern, or you didn't have one, or you didn't really know where to look, this website called designbolts.com, if you scroll to the bottom and hit search topic and you put seamless backgrounds or background, when you search for that, it's going to come up with this, and you're going to find a whole bunch of seamless patterns. So what I think really works well here is probably either these gray patterns, the white patterns, or the black patterns. And then if you click more on those, it should take you to a page where you can preview all of them and then download them individually. So these are actually nice patterns for a variety of uses. Because they're seamless, you can use them in a lot of other contexts as well, so like adding texture to your mock-ups and things like that. But they're very subtle, very simple. You could always change their color in Photoshop if you chose to, but easily you just click them. You should be able to, I don't know if it'll open a new page or if it'll straight up download it, but we'll find out. So it looks like you hit download again. And there you go, you now have a seamless background texture. So this is the place I would check. It has gray, black, and white, as well as I think some grunge textures. There's some high quality seamless ones here. Just make sure that you go back into Photoshop and you decrease their size if they're too large, because the larger the image, the slower it's going to load when people actually look at it. So they even have some kind of really playful looking ones over here as well. So those are seamless patterns. Grab one of those if you don't have one. And let's get started on this. So the first thing we need to do is reopen Dreamweaver. If you don't want to open Dreamweaver, you are welcome to follow along using brackets or one of the other programs. You, for the most part, will be able to kind of, as long as you're watching the code elements there, you're probably going to be fine figuring that out. I'm actually going to open my code sample with brackets so that we can see the code in case I need to refer back to it, because I want to make sure that it's exactly the same as in my sample so that you're able to follow along. But you can see up here, we have all of our basic things that we learned about in the last 2 weeks. We have our head section. You can see where it opens and closes right there. We have our style inside of our head section, and we're going to be adding these 2 styles today. And then we also have a little bit of new content. So we have our div with our header in it, and that's that Welcome to Japan or Visit Japan banner. And then we also have a div called Welcome Section, a new div called Welcome Image, and then another div called Welcome Text. So if we look at our website, you can see we have one box, this box, and this box. So it's 3 new boxes that we're creating today. Eventually, we're going to come back and insert another box in between this one and this one for our navigation bar. And we're going to insert 2 more boxes after that to have our gallery image section and then our contact section, and possibly also a footer. But once you figure out how to make one of these, it's really easy to make the other 2 or 3 of them, because it's the same very simple principles. So when we open up Dreamweaver, it might have forgotten your site, and that's kind of a thing that I've noticed sort of happens, because I think these are on deep freeze, so they delete all the remembered settings. Now what I've done is I've actually moved my website folder, and remember it's the full folder called Travel Site. I've moved that to my desktop so that if I mess it up, I still have the one on my portable drive, so I don't have to worry about that getting messed up. And then also last time I did work from the desktop, so it should be a little bit easier. It just kind of helps you out in case you really screw up and you need to go back a step. And that tends to be more important with more complex websites than this. But what I'm going to do is hit open. Actually, you know what? I could do that. Let's see what happens if I do it this way. I could manage my sites first and rebuild my site, but let's try and open it and just kind of see what happens here. So I'm going to open my index page. And here we go. We can see our website here. It looks pretty good. It looks like it's kind of glitching out a little bit and not showing our background texture, but I do know it's there. I know that code is correct, so I'm not going to worry about it. That's the only issue I've found with Dreamweaver, is this preview section is really deceptive. It is helpful when you're first starting to work, but sometimes it'll act up and not show things as they actually are. It can confuse you. It can do some other weird stuff. So don't get too panicky if this doesn't look right. You can always just double click the website itself and it will open in a browser and show you what it really is going to look like on the web. You can see here when I click manage sites that my website is gone. So that little, I can't see all my folders and stuff like that. So I'm going to go back to manage sites and I'm going to hit new site and I'm going to recreate that site I had. I believe you can also import sites, but we didn't save it that way, so we're just going to do it like this. So I'm going to call this travel site. You could call it whatever you want, and then I'm going to browse for the folder, which is on the desktop, called travel site. Choose, hit save, and then done. So now that I've done that, we can see my other code items have now popped back up. So my images folder is there, as well as my resources folder, my index file, and the code HTML sample that I made for you guys. So let's look back at our code and kind of think what our next step is. If you're really stuck, then go to the, I actually uploaded two, I think they're RTF Word document type dealies that actually have the chunks of text I added for each item, so it should really help. But what we need to do next is actually add our div for the next section, and then we need to style it. And then once we've styled it, we'll add our other divs inside of it and style those as well. So one of the hardest parts, I think, is learning where to add this div. To look in your code and go, where the heck do I put this? Do I put it over here? Do I put it in front of that? Do I put it behind this? And the most important thing is making sure you're not accidentally sticking it inside something that's not supposed to be there. So here I'm in my styles. I can tell because I have the curly cube brackets. So I'm going to keep scrolling down until I get to my body. So here's my body area, and this is where all the content for the website goes. So not in the head tag, not up by these purple guys here, not in the style tag, not over here, inside the body tag. Anytime you're adding an object, a thing that you want to show up on your website, it needs to be inside of here. So we can see I have this div, and when I click it, it pops up. We can see the little blue border going around it. I don't want to add a div inside that div. I want to add a div after that div. So when I click on it, it shows me where it starts and ends. I'm just going to hit enter, and I'm going to add a new div, which is as simple as starting my caret bracket, typing div, closing it, and then it's automatically going to write that. So although you can't see it here, I've already created a new box. Now what helps us see that box and not lose track of it in the code is we should give it a name and we should style it so that it shows up in the preview and we know where it is and what it's doing. So in this case, I'm going to go into that little opening tag right there, hit space, and I'm going to go ID equals quotes. It's going to close them for me, and then I just have to type its name. So let's see what I actually called it in the other one, because I want you to be able to use the code that I wrote before. I think I called it welcome section. So I named it welcome section. Let's call it welcome section. Welcome section. And I actually did it in lowercase. Just make sure whatever you name things that you keep them the same wherever you name them. You may notice in this code here, this is in lowercase and then this has uppercase. As long as the things that are trying to match it are in the same case, it will work fine. A lot of times the web browsers themselves are more forgiving than Dreamweaver will be. But so I've named it now welcome section, and that's all I need to do for the moment. So I now have a box called welcome section, and now I need to kind of give that box some style. I need to give it a size and a color and stuff like that so that I'll be able to see it. So I'm going to scroll back up to my style section. And this is essentially how it works. You create your content, you style your content, you create your content, you style your content. At least I think that's an approachable early way to work. You can go the other way or create all your content and then style it. But I think going back and forth allows you to really see the website progress. So I'm going to go back up into my style, and here I can see when I click the style tag that it shows me where that is. I'm going to go after this rule, and I'm going to create a new rule. So in the past or last class, I showed you how to create this sort of class rule here where you put a dot and then write the name and then later apply that to a box. In this case, I'm going to create a rule that only works on the object that's named the same thing, just to show you how it works. You could easily do this as a class rule, but so instead of the dot, I'm going to type an octothorpe, or as many people call it, a hashtag. So I'm going to type my little hash there, and then I'm going to name it the exact same name. So it's going to be, you can see actually when I started typing it, it popped up. There you go, welcome section. Put my curly Q bracket, and now I have that rule. And I just have to add some styles to it. So I'm going to open it up. And let's look at what we added in our code. So you're welcome to download this code and then go back and forth and start adding it into yours. So in this case, let's see what I have here. Welcome section, class welcome. I actually called it a different thing up here. I did a class rule this time. We're going to try it this way. You could do it either way. It works either way as long as you tell it what rule to have. And I'll show you both ways actually. So in this case, I'm just going to call it the name, and it will know that that's the one it's supposed to be. If you called it something different, you would just have to tell this to use that class. So it looks like I have it at width 1,000, height 500, and then I gave it a background color. So let's do that. Width, colon, 1,000 pixels, semicolon, height, colon, 500 pixels, semicolon, and then background, and you can see these rules are popping up right for you, so you can just click them and add them in, and then you could actually say background color here or whatever you want to do. In this case, if I just type this little octothorpe again, I should be able to either copy that code in or see background color. If I actually type background color, it'll pop up with this little hinty tool here that will just allow me to pick one right from here. So if you want a very specific color, then you need to go into Photoshop or whatever and find out what that hexadecimal code is. If you're not being as picky and you just put in background color, you can see it'll bring up this, and I can actually just scroll through and choose whichever one I want. So let's pick something you can see. I'm going to keep scrolling. Let's pick this hot pink. Wow, that's really bright. Okay, and then just close it with a semicolon. Done. So it's as easy as that. And I can easily change the color. You guys can pick a different color if you want. What's kind of cool is if you just write in a color, they've now kind of added colors with these codes. So if you typed in, for example, instead of hot pink, you typed in red, it's going to turn red. If you type in blue, you know, I can pick sky blue or something like that. So let's do that. We'll pick sky blue for now. So as you can see, this div, because it's called welcome section, and this rule, bless you, has an octothorpe in front of it, it knows which rule to apply. If I did, the other way to do that would be, instead of writing it like this, would be to write it like this as a class rule. So we hit dot welcome. We're going to call it something different just so it doesn't get messed up. Type that in, add our information, 1,000 pixels by height, 500 pixels, background color, and we'll call this one purple so that you'll see the difference here. So if I didn't have this rule, I could write the rule like this, and then all I would have to do is, let's rename this something different, and then say class equals welcome. And then what it should do is it should pick up the class for that one. So I think, why are you acting up, code? So sometimes it's not going to do what you want it to do, but that's essentially how it works. So if you see in this example, you can say class equals whatever, and then it will go find that rule and apply it. Is it possible I spelled it wrong? I might just, oh, there we go. I just needed to reset. You see how that preview just really kind of tricks you into thinking you did something wrong? I knew I had it right. So either way works. So if you're confused, you might need to go back and rewatch that section, but essentially you can write your rules like this and then tell the objects to look like that. What's nice about this is you can apply it to more than one object. And then it looks like I put it at 100 pixels. There we go. Oh no, hit enter too many times. Okay, so you can create a class rule and apply it to multiple objects, or you can create a unique rule and just name the object what you want it to be. So let's go back to the other way this time. Delete that. ID, and we'll call it welcome section again. And then it will revert back to that rule. I'm going to delete this one so there's no confusion. But that's pretty much it for adding a new div. So very, very easy stuff. So now the next thing we need to do is we actually need to add the divs inside for both our image and our text box. So as you're going, just remember to save as you're moving along. And now I'm going to do the same thing. So I actually want those divs to be inside this nice blue div. So I'm actually going to have to put them in between the opening and closing tag. So boxes, inside boxes. If you know which box you want to be inside, just go find the opening tag and the closing tag and put your box inside there. So same thing, I'm going to type div. It's going to close that up. I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to give it an ID so I know what it's supposed to be. ID equals quotes, and then I'll call this welcome image. I'm going to add my next div right here, and then I'll style both of them. So div, instead I can actually just start typing ID equals welcome text. Close that caret, and it will close that div. So I now have two boxes inside of this box, one called welcome image and one called welcome text. Now all I have to do is quickly style these using the same method I did up here. So let's go actually look at the sizes in this one. So you can see my rules are right here. I could actually technically just copy and paste these in and they would work. Let's try that, and then I'm actually going to type them because I still want you to try that effort. So they may not work because these are lowercase. I don't know if it's kind of forgiven that issue or not. Okay. Nope. So you can see nothing happened simply because capitalization is important. So let's try and fix that and see if that will cause it to pop up correctly. Welcome image and welcome text. So let's see if they did it. It might need to kind of reset itself a little bit here. Oops. It would help if I didn't hit enter right there and kind of mess it up. So let's check. Welcome image, welcome text. I have a feeling it's still just the preview that's being weird, but I know it's there. So let's actually type them. We'll do them our own way, but that should work. So actually, let's save it and double check my theory real quick. So I'm going to go back to my travel site. I just saved it. I did not exit it. And if I double click index, it should pop up. So okay, that did not work the way it wanted to. I have a feeling I know why. So it might be that I just still need to add the content because you can't see them. That's probably what it is. I don't know why I didn't think of that first. So in this one, we now need to add our actual welcome image and add our welcome text. So they are there. I just forgot to add the images. I thought I had it as a background image rule, but I did not. So if we click them, we can see that they do exist. I'm going to delete those styles because I actually want to go back through them step by step. But you can copy and paste code as long as you keep your names correct and all your file paths are right. So let's delete those rules and come back here. Now, I know someone in the section said they were a little unclear how to add images. And in Dreamweaver, there's an easy way to do it where you just go to Insert and then hit Image, and it will write the code for you when you select your image. So if I go to Welcome and do that, you can see what the code is, and it has it all nicely highlighted so you know exactly what it was. But essentially, you just have a tag called image instead of a tag called div. So image, and then this means source, equals, inside folder images, welcome.jpg. Be this wide and be this high. The alt tag is like, it gives like an alternate name. I think that's almost like the hover tip or something like that. I'm not super well versed on like why that's useful or when it's useful, so you'll have to forgive me for not knowing a ton about that. But if I delete it, nothing should happen. Didn't delete the image. And then same thing here, if I delete the width and the height, nothing's actually going to happen to it because it was already the width and height that it selected. So essentially, this is all the code right here you need to insert an image. Image, source, where it's located, /, close the tag. That's it. So we've now added our welcome image. It is there. It is at full size. And that's why we fixed all our sizes at the beginning so that we don't have to change its size or tell it to be a special size. It's all ready to go. It's going to fit perfect in there. And then now I just need to add some welcome text. So I'm actually going to go back and steal that from my other code here. I just copied this from online. Copy it. And right inside that box called welcome text, in between those two div tags, hit paste. And now I should have some text that pops up. But you'll notice this doesn't quite look right. Let's go open it in the browser and I'll show you what I mean. So when we look at it in the browser, you'll see the text is below and the image is like all the way perfectly in this corner. And that's a problem because we want our text to float to the right and we want our image not to be like way in this weird corner. And the way we fix that is with our styling. So let's actually stop this video here for now so I know it won't be too huge. And then when we come back, we're going to style these images and text areas so that they float and they fit perfectly in their text box.